Hey folks, welcome to Fresh Produce. I'm Pete from BTI. Now we've all been using tubeless valves for a long time. They seem to work pretty good, but there are a whole host of new alternative valves out on the market right now. So I wanted to take an episode here to kind of run through some of the most unique and some of the newest style valves in our catalog. This is the MilKit. What's unique about this guy is actually on the backside, on the inside of the rim. Maybe we'll take a step back here and think about some of the problems that we do have with tubeless valves. They can get clogged up with sealant. As you do let a little bit of air out or even inflate, some sealant can get back into your valve and clog up. Problem number two, need to seat tubeless tires. And usually a big old burst of air as fast as you can is kind of the ticket to get a tubeless tire to seat on that rim. These valves are all going to address those problems in one way or another. Diving right in here to the MilKit valve, we have a kind of a standard Presta top. What's unique about this is inside the shaft of the valve, there is a kind of an extension at the bottom of your Presta valve that goes all the way through. And when you look at the back of it, it's closed with a flap as well. So this is really the unique part of this valve overall, is really this flap in the back. It means that sealant's not going to get back into your valve and it just will not get clogged up over use of the long term. You can still open that up when you need to release some air with that long extension. You can see here as I press on the valve, there's that long rod all the way through, and it does open up the valve just enough to let air in and out without letting a whole lot of sealant in to the valve itself. The other cool part about this is when you take out the core, there's that long extension rod. We have covered this on the channel before, but they offer this cool syringe to insert sealant. They've got a couple different pieces, including a long hose just with a ball valve itself on that one. The idea here is that you can push this hose all the way through your valve, and you can see that hose sticking out the bottom. This allows you to even check how much sealant is in your tire without pulling the tire off the rim. Stick this thing and actually check how much sealant is left. Oh, I've got 1.5 fluid ounces in there. I'm pretty good. So that's a really cool setup. And I think it does bring this, even though it's a standard Presta, it brings it into the kind of realm of alternative valves and problem solving with that system. First of all, this is the big bore Lite. It has a shaft for Presta drilled rims, and then on the top, it also has a Presta head for a Presta pump. What's unique is there's no valve core in there. What they're doing is including a giant ball valve in the middle of the valve itself. So you can rotate that thing to lock it and open. When it is open, it is directly open. There's nothing blocking your airflow. So you're gonna get air going through this super fast from your pump or compressor to seat that. And then also there's nothing inside to get clogged up. I think this one just has really the least opportunity to get clogged with sealant since there's just nothing on the inside. Another great point is you can keep this ball valve closed until your pump is on and even has a little bit of pressure behind it, then open it. That means that no sealant is going to sneak back up through the valve getting inside. You're always having constant pressure from the other end. So pretty cool setup there if you want to keep running a Presta pump, which I know plenty of us have a lot of Presta CO2s out there and that sort of thing, so it's important. If you're not married to a Presta pump, try their big bore hybrid. This one has a Schrader valve on the other end, so you're just getting even more room or diameter for airflow. The same ball valve in the middle and then a Presta shaft at the backside, so it still fits your Presta drilled tubeless rim. They do include on both the big bore Lite and the big bore hybrid a whole bunch, well, I should say 3 extra rubber bases so that will fit a variety of different rim shapes. You just choose the one that fits your rim best. Another point on this one, the whole thing is pretty easy to disassemble. They've got little wrench flats that fit their included wrench on the ball valve section, and then you can take all this apart to get it installed. I'm pretty impressed with that big bore hybrid. I think that's a cool setup. As long as if you do run this one, make sure that your on-bike pump is compatible with Schrader. I know my 1-Up pump is not, so that's a big problem. I really love that 1-Up pump and tool that's mounted on my bike. I'm not gonna change that out. So I would be sticking with the big bore Lite. We have got the E13 valve. This is another one that does still use a Presta, standard Presta at the head. What they've done that's unique on this one is kind of split the valve in two. With this, once you take the top half off, you can see straight through it, nothing inside to block. This allows you to really clean out in there if you need. It also allows you to insert one of the small bottles of sealant right into the head of this thing and squeeze your sealant through without ever pushing it through the Presta valve. And then also you could, give it a blast of air to clear that out if you needed to. The other cool thing I've noticed about this system is the base piece is the same on both this version with the Presta top, and they offer a Schrader top. So if you ever needed to switch back and forth, you can do that without taking the base of the valve out of your wheel. Yep, pretty cool system there. I think that does offer some really cool benefits. Next one up is one that I don't think there's been much talk about in our market. I'm really happy to introduce this here today. This is Halo high flow valve. They have really done something unique. If you know on a Presta, the inner rod is a tiny little rod and that kind of holds the head. You thread the head up and down and that pushes through the valve to open the stopper at the bottom. What they've done here is just make that inner rod a whole lot bigger. So big that there's a giant hole in the middle of the rod itself. There is still a threaded collar, kind of like a regular Presta valve. Once that's open, air and sealant can go directly through the hole in that rod. They've also kind of expanded the outer section of the shaft so that the stopper can be larger and fit right in that section. You cannot take this upper half off the lower half like you can on some others. So to install, you do need to unthread the bottom. That's pretty easy to do. You can take off the rubber grommet and clean that as needed to get a good seal. And then just a rubber cap on the top. On all these, I want to remind folks that the cap on these valves doesn't keep any air in. It's just keeping your valve clean. So if you lose it, don't worry about it. That is a pretty cool, unique option. Also, Halo is offering a Presta insert with this type of head. So you can take your standard Presta shaft and have a new high flow head on it that you'll be able to push sealant through real easily and get a lot of airflow through as well. All right, next up we have got the NoTubes Exo-Core Valve. Stans is really the big name in tubeless valves. So many of our bikes all have Stans valves on there. So let's look at what they've done differently on this new version. First of all, it is updated for insert compatibility. So a big thick base here with holes on either side. All these valves just about have something like this built in. But moving right along, the next piece, they've changed the shape of the rubber grommet. They say this is most compatible with tons of rims out there. Now, the top section of the valve, this is pretty unique. They've got still the Presta shaft like the others. The top section can be removed. And this is how they suggest you insert sealant, is just through the shaft section. But now looking at the upper section, you can see there's a plunger sticking out of the bottom of it. When we take the cap off, you can also see, much larger air holes in this guy. And this shaft can also come out. So you can really easily clean this if there is ever sealant getting lodged inside. The air stopper on this is going to be really easy to clean. There's no rubber pieces anymore. It's all metal. You're going to be able to get in there and clean that if it is clogged up with sealant. And then that just easily slips back in and is inserted down. So what we've got that's so unique about this, kind of the whole idea of a Presta valve is just expanded and sort of moved up. So instead of threading at the top of a Presta valve to close the valve or lock it down, you have got this whole larger lock nut that's going to close that valve by tightening the lower shaft against that inner plunger, essentially. So give that a little push and thread, and it's locked in now. No air is going to get through. Open it up, back up a little ways, and that little slider can move again, and you can push air through. So really, it's moving the tiny Presta fitting that used to be at the top down into a much larger nut. So pretty cool setup from Stans on the Exo-Core. They have also started selling their Universal Plus valve, and that is a kind of the upgraded version, but with a standard Presta, and you can easily upgrade to the Exo-Core head on that at a later time if you choose. Since we've got this universal plus valve out, I wanted to take a look at our next on the list. The next on the list is not even a full valve. It's just a different style of core, but it does seem like they're getting quite a lot of attention from this. And let's talk about Clik. This is the new Clik valve. It sure looks just like a Presta side by side. They're very similar shape, but there's no threaded element on the Clik valve. So that's pretty unique. And that is gonna thread right into a Presta valve. I believe there's also a Schrader version of the Clik valve that'll thread into a Schrader. You can use a Presta pump with a Clik valve. The big upgrade and reason anybody wants to use a Clik valve is the pump that comes with it. Now there's a couple of different options. With the whole conversion kit comes a couple of valve cores, a replacement head that is dedicated Clik, as well as an adapter that will thread into your Schrader. Check out kind of the solid engagement here. It's a solid click on and the valve's open, and a pull off, the valve is closed. You can still release air by giving that a tap at the head if you need to. We've got just a little mini pump here with the Schrader adapter built right, or installed. So it's just a solid click, and same thing coming off. So the idea here is they are gonna get a little more airflow through a Clik valve, but you're also not gonna be wrestling with your pump to get on and off. Less air loss each time you're putting that on, less likelihood of sealant coming up through the valve with air loss, and just no broken or bent Presta rods at the top, no broken Presta valves, because this is simple and just clicks right on. So I think each style of alternative valve is really different for different types of customers. Think about what you desire, whether that is ultra fast inflation, being able to push sealant straight through your valve, maybe with the Muc-Off big bore. If you want to be able to test, see how much sealant is inside your rim still and insert more, the MilKit system is really cool for that. I think, some of the really novel options here are the Halo High Flow and even the Stan's Exo-Core, just a whole different idea of how to seal off your valve. And then finally, Clik. If you are just frustrated with Presta cores getting bent or broken, or Presta valves in total, and you just want a whole new pump system, this is really the future. So lots of different options out there, and I think, like I said, they apply to different people. I know you'll find the one that suits you. Make sure you ask at your local bike shop and tell them BTI sent you.